the initial experience that we are testing. After you log in, you are after you finish logging in and signing up, you arrive on the homepage of the platform. So everything currently revolves around the feed, and what the feed is essentially, in simple terms, it's quite similar to the traditional chat feeds that we're used to. But in our case, we are packing in this feed with chat messages, but also the outputs and the inputs of the humans and the agents that then perform tasks within the scope of each feed. So on platform, you can create as many feeds as you want. And each feed can act as a container for, well, all the different types of work that perhaps you need done. So each feed, if it's a separate project, then that can be classified as a project feed. If different content pieces every month, you do all sorts of content calendaring. So maybe a feed can represent a day or a week or some other slice that can be predefined by you. And yeah, so let's go ahead and start the process here and create a feed. So when you instantiate that create feed button, we are hitting couple of resources, setting up a few things. So sometimes it could be a little bit slow initially. We're kind of just coming online with our network here, so still testing a lot of things out. Once we do arrive on the feed, we're greeted by the Matter cross-functional assistant. And a cross-functional assistant is essentially an entity that is powered by many different agents, single architecture, single executor agents, and multi-team agent loops. And that together forms a cross-functional assistant, and the cross-functional part and meaning being specifically in regards to that it can go to different data sources and it can do different kinds of operations all within the same request. So if we look at some of these tasks and prompts to try on the right, and depending on what it is that we're working on, so we're starting to fill these up by category. And in a way, yes, they are very similar as to how the prompts work, just in AI in general. But in this specific case, we are adding specific keywords and kind of bits of functional AI that then allows us to kind of make sure that the agents are going to go to these specific places and retrieve. So we can load one of these into the input bar. Maybe let's say New York advertising agency. Great. Okay, so we are just doing a quick test request. The way that the requests work is you can either load them in from the bar here. So if you find something that you are specifically speaks to you and is relevant, then you just click the load objective. Objective is like, yeah, basically the prompt itself. Some of these are longer than others. And what we then we could pay attention to, so this is the console area. There are a lot more options here and possibilities that will grow in in time, but currently this main button on the left acts as our primary matter cross-functional assistant. So this is what's connected to a large, over 100 different sources now, and uses a huge web of tooling to produce this functional AI outputs, meaning we go to those places, we gather data, we analyze it, we do all sorts of different additional operations sometimes, and then return the responses. Now, the middle button that has the multi-agent icons, these represent teams that function. So the architecture is quite different into how these work and as to how this button works. So in this case, it's literally as though you're talking to one entity, and that entity acts as an executive decider across the board. So it's able to do a lot, but it doesn't have any kind of like cyclical looped way of actually being a team member or having an output be coordinated by an entity. It's just basically it's its own thing. It produces its own output, and that's it. Now, these multi-agentic teams is something that functions quite differently. Here, this is much more assignment-based and perhaps less or initial kind of ideation-based. So if you have specific content request, you can send that into the writing team, or specific lead enrichment request, obviously, and that can go here. And the idea for this section to very quickly grow into what it should really grow into is not something that's going to be managed by antimatter. I mean, to some extent, of course, and we can offer here again templated things like we do here. But ideally, this is what's going to be filled with users' own, whatever the customized agent and customized assistant approach. So if they're going to be, let's say, in real estate, and there's 3 different teams or specific kind of functionalities that are still best served in a multi-team setting, and then not even within one team, but kind of as many as they want, basically. So here we can feature this scrollable item, and depending on what kind of revenue model is set up for these, then of course maybe like 5 teams for a certain price, 10 teams for another, then 25 teams, or whatever. So we'll start with a simple request. Here we're just trying to get an SEO and keyword panel for the keyword New York advertising agency. So once we have something in the input, let's go ahead and fire the request. So the interesting thing about this button here is that while it tracks currently just one of the outputs that's being generated, you can send in more requests into this button now. So I'm going to do that. And as you could see, you'll see the user message or your message appear. And now the tracker has a little bit of a missed time delay, but the information will arrive in that second message. So yep, there's our keywords, and it looks like, okay, there's a little bit of an issue right there, but yeah, so those 2 requests fired seems successfully. We do see here that an extensive amount of data sources has been used. So a couple of more important things. The very initial experience that we are testing within the feed, we turned off image functionality, video and audio generative capabilities and some intelligence, and just focusing on this initial functional team and single agent approach. So whenever you're working with these messages, there are 2 ways to look at them. Currently, this is still being developed, but you are more than welcome to use this view. And some things look better in one, some things look better in another. It just depends on kind of what the message is, because there are different types of messages that could exist here. And so we can also close or collapse the text and then unfold it again. And we always know. So one quick way to tell that if the functional AI is working and you are actually using, the data sources that are not as generic and that are enriched and that are basically coming from the our backend, is that external data retrieved will show you the amount of actual different API calls or endpoints that were consulted and retrieved from, and then analyzed and generated over from. And here we then see all the real-time data on the stuff, and if we want to verify something or just understand better in the how the request itself works. So during that operation, we've had a couple of calls done, and we can see actually here that this is a development error right now on our side. So whenever you see any sorts of requests like this, it's because the system right now that has everything set up for all these different sources and tools and data providers, some things are still in trial mode, and so we could see these types of failures, and this is something that we just need to fix. And then here we could see different results. So we asked for SEO based work, and we could go into the object here and then start viewing the actual different results. So the time stamp is from when the agent made the request and went and did the operation, and then this is what was consulted for.